For the last 300 years, the world believed power came from armies, flags, and political systems. But history tells a far darker truth, and real power has always belonged to those who controlled the one resource. Civilization could not live without it. Not influence, not alliances control, and the power to decide who moves forward and who is left in the dark. Modern history shows this pattern very clearly for different times. One nation or a small group controlled a single strategic resource, and every single time they became the dominant force on Earth. In the 1800s, that resource was coal-powered factories, railroads, steamships, and growing cities, and without coal, the industrial world simply could not function. Britain didn't just have coal, it had enormous reserves. More importantly, it built its entire economic system around it, and coal became the foundation of British power. Every industrial nation needed coal to grow. Britain controlled both the supply and the global trade routes, and that control gave Britain unmatched leverage. Factories expanded, rail networks spread, and ports exploded with activity. A steam-powered navy protected trade across the world, and coal transformed Britain into a global empire by controlling fuel. Britain controlled trade itself. That leverage shaped global markets and political decisions, and it helped create the largest empire in human history. But monopolies never last forever. Technology changes and power shifts with it, and coal was eventually replaced. By the early 1900s, oil became the new engine of civilization. Once again, a single nation gained a massive advantage, and this time it was the United States. America didn't just produce oil. It mastered its cheap energy, reshaped the transportation industry and daily life, and oil became the backbone of the modern economy. Highways stretched across continents, and suburbs expanded rapidly. Aviation and global shipping exploded, and oil connected the world like never before. World War II proved oil decided victory. The Allies had access to oil, the Axis powers did not, and the outcome of the war followed that reality. After the war, the United States produced nearly half of the world's oil. Its economy and military both ran on cheap energy. Its build energy and oil dominance created the American century. For decades, the United States stood as the sole superpower. Energy security meant economic growth and military strength, but once again, the monopoly cracked. By the 1970s, U.S. oil production peaked. America suddenly needed imports to survive, and that vulnerability changed everything. This is where OPEC entered the story. They didn't control all oil, but they controlled enough, and that was enough leverage. In 1973, the world saw the consequences. Oil prices exploded almost overnight, and Western economies fell into chaos. Inflation surged, markets crashed, and growth collapsed, and the lesson was harsh and unforgettable. Dependency equals vulnerability. Today, the same pattern has returned, but this time the resource is different, and it is no longer fuel, it is technology itself. Modern life depends on rare earth elements. Most people have never heard of them, yet they power nearly everything. Smartphones, electric vehicles, and wind turbines all depend on rare earths. So do missiles, radar systems, and fighter jets, and even modern defense systems cannot function without them. There are only 17 rare earth elements, and one country controls the processing of most of them, and that country is China. This dominance did not happen by accident. It was the result of long-term strategy, and China invested while others walked away. Rare earth processing is difficult and environmentally toxic. Most Western nations shut down operations, and China did the opposite. It built mines, refineries, and processing plants. Competitors slowly disappeared from the market, and China absorbed the entire supply chain. By the 2010s, China dominated rare earth processing. Today, it controls over 90% of it, and this is where real power lies. Mining alone is not the advantage. Processing is what matters, and China controls that step. Other countries can dig ore out of the ground, but China turns that ore into usable materials, and without processing, the resource is useless. As a result, Every advanced economy is dependent. The United States, Europe, and Japan all rely on China, and so do modern militaries. China has already tested this leverage before exports were restricted in the past, and the effects were immediate. Prices spiked overnight, industries panicked, and supply chains froze, and the message was unmistakable. Dependence creates control, and control creates power, and the pattern never changes. First comes discovery, then infrastructure is built, and then monopoly forms. After monopoly comes dependency. After dependency comes leverage, and eventually damage follows. Britain had coal, America had oil, and OPEC controlled oil prices. Now China controls rare earths, but this time the stakes are higher and the timeline is faster. Demand is exploding due to electric vehicles and green energy. These technologies need more rare earths than ever before, and alternatives take decades to develop. Processing plants cannot be built overnight. Supply chains take years to rebuild, and even starting today, independence is far away. Until then, leverage remains. Some believe free markets will fix everything, and history strongly disagrees. Every monopoly is eventually used. Every dependency is eventually exploited, and not immediately, but inevitably. This is not a future problem. It is happening right now, and history tells us exactly how this story usually ends. The pattern is clear, the lessons are harsh, and the stakes are higher than ever before. Power is no longer measured in armies or flags. It is measured in resources and control. And only those who understand this invisible rule will shape the world of tomorrow.